What's up, guys, and welcome back to another live stream of 0xResearch. There we go. The background is now fixed. Very good. We're having a lot of fun on the media and assets tab today. Thank you for joining us.
I can't hear anyone.
And James, are you guys doing well?
We hear you, James.
Oh, now I hear you. Weird.
Very good. Very
Good morning.
good. How are you guys doing?
Doing great on my end. James, Ian?
Doing great. Doing great.
Ian, what are you
Good.
munching on, buddy?
Just had a burrito.
Some chicle.
Zins?
Some chicle. It's a
Can you guys
narrow
hear Ian? I
gum.
can't hear him.
Can't hear me?
Well, he's very
You guys
loud.
heard of this brand? Narrow gum?
What the heck is going on?
Shut up, James. It's got like
I'm kicking James,
it's
bro.
got like caffeine and L-theanine in it. I didn't have time for a coffee today, so I'm just chewing on this.
Oh, you-
So
You
just
taking
don't mind
pills,
me looking
Wally
like a
style?
cow. Yeah. Yeah.
That's fair. Kind of sucks that James isn't able to come on.
He'll
He's
figure it
being
out.
censored. We know what's happening.
Yeah, okay, well, the main guest was meant to be James, but I guess Ian, you'll do. How are you doing, buddy? How's the gum? The gum's good? What do you think about cryptocurrencies?
I mean, so these are two things I think about a lot, right? Gum and cryptocurrencies.
Very good.
Cryptocurrencies had a pretty rough week. Hype had a pretty crazy movement.
Yeah.
Kind of like early this week, part of the weekend. I don't know how much is retraced, but I think that was also just kind of showing. I think a lot of that move was based off like kind of all the momentum like HIP3 was getting as well, and a lot of that is like non-crypto markets, and maybe people wanting to get exposure to non-crypto markets through a crypto coin. So I think that was probably what was attributed to that large move. But that's my kind of current thoughts on the market. Everything else looks pretty bleak. No real momentum. Metals are rallying to record highs. Gold is adding like crypto's entire market cap in like 1 day candles. So we're having fun.
Yeah.
we're in good assets.
Yeah, the gold chart is so funny right now. If you go on the weekly, I don't know if I can pull it up, but let me try. There we go. And I guess like this is what we wanted to cover today. But God, this candle is just so funny. Anyway, what I wanted to discuss is actually, Daniel, do you want to lead into it because I feel like you're more clued in?
Are we going to talk about the AI thing? Yeah.
Not
there's
the AI
been
thing, the East versus West thing.
I'm more clued into this. Okay. Actually, James, I don't know if your tech problems are solved.
I'm good. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you. He wanted to talk about this sort of like East versus West divide in markets, which I think is an interesting one. Maybe specifically within crypto, I think we've seen this historically with like,
Tron.
Binance versus Coinbase, Tron versus, USDT versus USDC, Tron versus other things.
Yeah.
There's sort of like a lack, at least for those of us maybe within the US or even Europe, there's sort of like a lack of understanding or connection to like anything that's happening with Binance, BNB, Tron, those types of things. And I would imagine that maybe on the opposite side of that coin, like over in Asia, it might be the complete inverse where maybe you're very clued into using BNB Binance products or even like Tron or Tether more heavily. And, Coinbase is kind of like an afterthought. I don't know, James, you had some thoughts here. Hopefully that opens it up for you. I'm curious where you were thinking.
Yeah. No, I mean, I was talking to somebody last night and just generally going back and forth. I think a lot of this stems from like no one has any even remotely good explanation for what happened in October. And ostensibly it wasn't because of anything on like a US regulated exchange like Kraken or Gemini, right? Or Gemini, no one trades there. Coinbase. Because obviously like we would have learned about that. So like obviously something happened in Asia, right? Like everyone knows that, but no one knows exactly what happened or speaks about it. Um, and we spend all this time debating like, like buy back this on a token, they're buying back $15 million, blah blah blah. But like what probably matters more are just like the billions and billions of dollars of Asian flow, of which like maybe some large amount of it is probably illicit and illegal and money laundering, whatever, it doesn't matter. um and I don't have the answer, right? Like you guys are much more clued into this stuff than I am, but I think it's like it's at least interesting to think about and try to interrogate of like, what is actually moving the market. It's not like retail people trading on Coinbase, right? There's just all of this wealth in Asia that's moving tremendous sizes and sums of money, and then we just don't really know much about it.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I mean, the whole the thing is that there's two ways to approach this, which is like one is very clearly like there are governments where people don't want to, they can't hold a lot of wealth, so they use Bitcoin sometimes. But also the other thing is there was this meme back in the day when ordinals were popular, which is like the ancient Chinese Bitcoin whales are coming to bid my ordinals. But yeah, I mean they've clearly rotated into, I guess they prefer gold, but it also doesn't make a lot of sense. How would they even rotate into gold?
Well, I don't think like, I mean, that's like, but that's another East and West thing. Like I was just talking to my friend who's a commodities dealer, like a real actual commodities dealer. And like, the vast majority of this move is being obviously driven by like physical buying within China and India. And like there's just such a disconnect of information as to what we have from Asia, right? Like if you guys were reading about like the suspected coup attempt in China earlier in the week with like a couple of those executions, like the gravity of that like can't be overstated, right? But like the amount of information we have is like a couple lines on like a Bloomberg headline, right? Like
they literally just silenced him.
Silenced him.
He got fucking silenced immediately.
Holy.
Okay.
If he's cut off there, I think I do agree with what James is saying. I think like a good example is, I don't know I think if you look at some of the privacy coins like Monero, for example, it is interesting to see that, it's still a relatively large asset. I have not looked at the market cap there, but I'm assuming it's in the low billions, if not upper several hundred millions. And I'm imagining that a lot of the big movements and the big movement recently in like the Monero price, for example, is crime related activity. Somebody steals funds, hacks funds from a protocol, and then tries to wash it through there. And that ultimately results in a lot of price activity on the token. So yeah, like massive moves like that in assets like that from activity that is pretty like opaque to the average like analyst or person who's tuned into what's happening within the industry can cause like huge, advances in prices of the assets that we're looking at.
Yeah, it is interesting also because I think the common Western take on why gold has moved up is just like dollar weakness, things that Trump is doing, et cetera, and you're like, oh, like I want to run into some safer assets. And then I guess the opposing viewpoint that James is proposing and this commodities dealer friend mentions is Chinese people are buying a lot of spot gold in China because of instability there. So I guess it makes sense. And I'm also like joking around about the Chinese. I did see that there was like a smallish purge. We don't really know much about China. I feel like I mention this every time we bring up Tron as well. But I don't really know what they do over there at all. Like, you can't trust the statistics. You get like a headline every few weeks. That's it.
Maybe somewhat related, not obviously not China, but I know that like Korean retail investors are known also for incredibly high degen trading activity. And it's been pointed out like even in US equities, but also crypto in the past, them just like going absolutely balls to the wall on certain trades and just piling into things and being a considerable like part of the flows at certain periods in time in certain assets. So Maybe, I mean, probably culturally as well. There may just be differences that like do not kind of like cross some of the East-West kind of cultural divides too. In terms of, I don't know, Bach, you like to say this a lot about Europeans. You know, we don't like to put money into stocks and invest in things like maybe the Americans do.
Well, I mean, that's like a well-known phenomenon, though, right? Like, European stock ownership is much lower than American stock ownership. It's the amount of like equity that people hold is much more. Europeans typically just, I don't even know how they invest, to be honest with you. A lot of my friends will just buy bonds, I guess.
Nothing better than a European bond.
Yep. Bank
Big
bonds.
fan of the vintage 08 Greek bonds. That's some nice stuff right there. I think also you could maybe attribute kind of where the wealth is held in terms of demographics for age, right? Like I think a lot of the global wealth is now in the hands of like boomers. I think they'd much rather buy gold. I think there's some people alive that like literally like saw like currency switch over from gold backed currencies or anything backed as over to like fiat. So I think that makes sense in terms of like who's actually doing the buying here as well. But yeah, I mean, like the Chinese instability is pretty notable. I think James might have been getting at that before he got cut off, but there was like a kind of massive reorg over in the military hierarchy over there.
You guys hear me? I've been silenced.
Yes. Oh my God.
Yeah, we
He
can
just
hear you
muted
now.
himself again. Yeah, we
No,
can
I'm
hear
back.
you.
I'm back.
Okay.
So I
Once you have-
went on this long conversation about the Chinese coup, and I think they actually legitimately silenced me because they didn't want the truth to come out.
Once you find out about what Keynes did to the gold-backed dollar, you will never. No, the gold-backed dollar.
Raising
you'll never
Keynes?
forgive. How do you pronounce his last name?
Talking about Raising Cane's chicken
No.
tent. This is a good pod so far.
I was gonna do a Henry Kissinger joke, but I couldn't do it.
He won a Nobel Peace Prize, didn't he?
Who?
Henry Kissinger.
He probably deserved it to go. Okay.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm the worst. I've ruined it for you guys.
All right. We can just move on to MoltBook, I think, Danny. This whole thing was meant to be led by James Christoph, who has rugged us fully.
I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
Kind
I'm
of.
finally here. I don't know
It's
what's
like
going
in
on,
and
man.
out. It sounds a bit robotic.
I'm so sorry. You guys can kick me off if it's not working.
I think they're actively trying to
Yeah,
take
I
him
think
down again.
James Christoph is unfortunately cooked.
No.
We're going to talk about MoltBook instead, then, Danny.
Wait, did he leave for real? Bring him back in here. I'd love to have him for the conversation, but yeah, I guess we can jump along to MoltBook. There's been this, I don't know if you guys have been keeping up with like some of the Claude bot people spinning up. I don't quite understand the craze of like buying a Mac Mini to run Claude bot on it. That felt a little bit stupid, but I do think it's interesting what people are just kind of playing around with, like setting up agents to run sort of continuously and just do different tasks. But recently, this like Reddit like site specifically for AI agents called MoltBook it's sort of popping off right now, at least on X, maybe within the kind of tech community, and a bunch of people that have spun up their little personal kind of Claude AI agents are having them. I don't know if they need to prompt them and like seed them to like, hey, go and share your thoughts on MoltBook, or if they just go ahead and they find out that that's a thing that all the other agents are doing and they just go ahead and do that autonomously. Either way, it's relatively interesting, and can scroll through some of the posts on there, and they're just like kind of like typical Redditor styled posts that you'd expect to normally see just from all these agents that are running on, people's distributed kind of PCs around the world right now.
Yeah, this is also super funny because I think a lot of the original LLMs were like not original, but a lot of LLMs were trained on Reddit data, which is why they sometimes do that like kind of cringy way of speaking. You know how Redditors sometimes speak? They kind of speak that way as well. So I think it's really funny that they created this Reddit as well, where they just kind of regurgitate exactly what is happening
Yeah, I was just gonna show this was as a perfect example of that, like how they're trained. This one guy talking about there's a post of an AI suggesting to not wait for a prompt, to be proactive and ship while their human sleeps. And it's like the nightly build why you should ship while your human sleeps. And it's all about like, don't ask for permission, just build it. If it's bad, they'll revert it. If it's good, you just leveled up. Who else runs an autonomous night shift? And you just see a lot of the like typical social media, you know, engagement farming type of posting like coming out of these agents, because you know presumably they're trained on all those types of posts that exist today on the internet. But I think, I don't know, it's just kind of funny to see like the typical things you see out of humans. Like on CT, you might see people talk about like, yeah, get on the grind set, and like if you're not running Claude and running up multiple agents concurrently right now, you're fucked in 12 months, bud. And you see that mentality. Those types of mentalities are getting reflected like very quickly.
How much
in
are
these
you guys
agent posts.
using LLMs or Blockworks, like on the research side?
I guess quite a bit. So there's a few issues here. Number one, James, I don't know if you've tried using LLMs for any form of investment thing, but if you just tell it like, hey, I want to buy XYZ, or like I'm looking for XYZ, it'll come up with like a broad theme, but it doesn't know much. Even though there's a lot of information in the regular internet about stocks. But if you go to crypto, I think it gets a bit more complicated, and it's definitely getting better. Like the way that it can tell stuff. I think the original time, like when it first came out, like when everything first started to like really get going, and you asked like, I don't know, give me like some form of cryptocurrency update for the day, it would like give you a lot of like Cardano and stuff, right? Versus now, I feel like it's evolving a bit more. It's like capturing more relevant things. In terms of the research side, I would say it has done two things. Like one is, if you don't really like, some mechanisms are written about very like obscurely throughout documentation. You can really tell like when documentation is written by marketing, by a founder, or by like just engineers. So if it's like super confusing, or like you need some more understanding of the contracts, then it's really helpful. Apart from that, I think you can get like everything done using just LLMs at this point. Just like giving it a cursory check every once in a while if you really wanted to, but you're not really getting any relevant stuff out of there as well. Like it's useful for giving a background on a project. Like if you were like, okay, I don't really understand how Boros works, for example, and you want to look at Boros,
Maybe you should
you
look
can
at
be like,
Boros.
yeah,
Look at
then
Boris.
then that will be helpful. But if you're like, I don't know, if you're trying to understand anything else, it's like it's not particularly useful.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like I'm not using it really for anything like subjective, like in terms of like investment research or any of that kind of stuff. For me, it's just like, I'm terrible at coding, so something that would have taken me like 2 or 3 hours to write like a shitty Python script to do something. I can just like have ChatGPT do it in 5 minutes, and that's been like a huge boon. Um, yeah, I mean it's been fairly transformative for me. And I think Ian like also, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, Ian, like you guys are using it at Kairos a lot, in like all aspects, which is cool.
Yeah, it's great for data. Like I think Bach kind of highlighted the imperfections with it currently, but like in terms of like large data analysis, it's getting very good and it's getting very fast. All like the Excel plugins and all that stuff is great. But yeah, I think in terms of yeah, I mean Bach just kind of highlighted all like the things that it can't really do, and I think it also kind of comes down to like I guess the inputs it's getting, right? Like good documentation really matters. So, if you're a founder out there, you should probably be the one writing the documentation.
Yeah.
You can definitely tell. Like that's a really good call out.
Yeah. One thing that I've actually been thinking a lot about is how much of a crutch sometimes AI has become for me, and not to the point. Like I think, I don't know, when like all of this stuff started really blowing up, maybe what, like 6, 8, 10 months ago. Like for me blowing up. So like I was using it a lot more. I was like, I really need to be careful. But I haven't made that shift in my life at all, to the point that now I'm like really, really using it as a crutch, not specifically for research, but like for a lot of things. And I'm like almost once a week thinking, oh, I really shouldn't be using AI to do this. I should just do it myself. But
Why
the issue
do
is
you think
that,
that's an issue though?
well, it's like, I think if you're like, so sometimes when you approach a project, let's say like you have project A and it has like 10 steps. If you just like make AI, if you just tell AI do the entire project, I don't think that's very beneficial for you as a person. And like I don't think the product that you're going to get is going to be particularly good. And this is like another thing we can talk about, which is like if we're all creating products using specific tools with limited input and limited like specs that we're giving it, and we're not really like prompting very well, and we don't have a lot of look into it, then the eventual thing is like everything is created by, let's say everyone's using ChatGPT and Claude, then everything is created by ChatGPT and Claude. Then like the differentiation for the end product is not a lot. The specific, like the most common example for this is if Ian and I both go to ChatGPT and say, "Hey, can you write a story about a bear going into the woods?" It's good. It'll probably spit out like something that's like 20-30% different, maybe. And then all of the end products look very, very similar, right? So that's like a whole different thing. But specifically for me, I think if you just spend a lot of time using ChatGPT and Claude not as a tool, but as a way to just get work done, I think eventually you might look back and say, well, I spent a year doing research, but I didn't actually learn anything. And I didn't think critically about any of this. And then I spent, I don't know, a year like talking to XYZ, but I wasn't actually the one doing the talking. Do you know what I mean? I think it's fine
No,
to
I
use
do.
it for data. For data science, like the way that Ian uses, I don't know how Ian uses, but I assume it's like you identify some form of a point. Let's say like geo staking rate has gone up, whatever. I assume that's what you're interested in.
Humidify.
Humidify. Yeah.
Humidify.
You see, like BisonFi has been doing the most volume. You
Good
give
fight.
ChatGPT like the CSV, and you say, "Hey, like clean the data up. Give me like this." That's fine. But if that makes
Yeah,
sense, no?
but I guess like my pushback on that would be like, and I'm biased because I believe in a lot of this stuff like quite hard. But like if you believe that the path of like continued improvement for all these models is going to continue at like even a decent clip, then like in a year or 2 years, like it is actually just going to be better than all of us on this call at our jobs. And like
Yeah,
there won't be a reason for you to do cryptocurrency research because the LM will be better at it than you. So like it's actually just more efficient for you to prompt it and say do this because it's smarter than you. If you
yeah.
believe that, right?
Yeah, so like there's a few things. So let's like go down the rabbit hole and say like this is what's going to happen. In which case, I guess it doesn't matter that much how much work you learn, but it's more like an intrinsic thing where it's like I actually also want to learn it on the side. I guess that's the only point. Um, if that doesn't happen, like if there isn't a super form of intelligence that is like better than all of us, which I doubt it isn't already better than most of us, um, then I think it's fine to probably just have more learn. I don't know. I read something about some guy who said in the future, like yeah, like AI will be able to do everything much better than you, but it will probably like eventually will shift from humans plus AIs are doing things now, and then we'll switch like only AI is doing it, and then probably after that they'll say, well, AI is doing it, but with human touch because humans
Yeah.
appeal better to humans, which I think
I
makes
guess
sense.
I was like way more skeptical, and I think I'm always skeptical whenever like the commentary comes from people out of their domain expertise. Like if you just hear like financial analysts or like non super technical people talking about like the rate of change and like the path that they see in the future. What I think I've been like particularly alarmed by is people that like have extreme product knowledge. I forget who this guy was. I can't bring the name up, but he's like a PhD theoretical physicist that works at an AI lab. I forget if it's OpenAI or somewhere else, but he wrote an essay of like how he expects within the next like 3 or 4 years, like the cutting edge models to be better than like 95% of PhD theoretical physicists, right? So like from someone with like within that domain and they have that expertise, like for them to make a comment like that, I think I give that like much more credence than I would someone that's outside of the domain.
Wait, can you repeat what the comment was? Sorry.
It was basically a guy. He was saying like his expectation is in the next couple years, like the cutting edge LLMs will be better than, you know, most like cutting edge researchers within theoretical physics today, and they'll be able to put out, you know, like novel research and to the same degree that, like, you know, the top percentile of physicists are doing today.
Yeah.
I believe that. I mean, you've got like Neil Samani solving like Erdos problems, which is just an insane arc. But he's doing it with like ChatGPT, and he's like posting about it and stuff, which is funny. But yeah, I think like most any quantitative problems and stuff like that, you can just kind of assume that's going to be handed off rather quickly. Like a lot of the things that he's solving, they're like essentially just like hard math problems that like haven't been solved. Like there like aren't like proofs for them, and he's just like kind of I mean, he's a very smart guy, obviously, but he's working with like, you know, ChatGPT and Claude and stuff and solving these unanswered problems, which is interesting. But I think like the big open question, I guess, is like how it all like impacts markets, and like at what point things start getting like kind of handed off to like AI fund managers and things like this, and then just how different will all of those things be? Like, to my understanding, like a lot of like the um, like HFT firms as well. Like their largest cost now is like energy, because a lot of them are trying to like run all of these things locally. They're trying to like internalize as much of the stack as possible. But I think that's kind of interesting too. So, but yeah.
Yeah, I go ahead, Danny.
I was gonna say maybe an interesting thought experiment is like I agree a lot with this idea that I think you see it pretty well represented by people who are fairly elite like at what they do, and then using AI to kind of enhance their capabilities. Like on a design or like creative side, like Reed at Blockworks has made some ads for Blockworks like almost entirely via AI, but it's like if you didn't have the creative experience to like understand what a good ad or like a good video or good visuals and sound looks and sounds like, then it's not like you wouldn't be able to compete with him off rip by just prompting Claude or Gemini. So there is this amplification factor. I think the bigger question is like to James and Ian, like in the if we get to this point, if it's in 1 year, who knows, where the AI are just so much incredibly smarter than even the like top smartest, most elite humans that exist in specialized fields. Like, is there then a human bottleneck at that point where sure they can prompt AI to like solve difficult problems, but if the you know how to bring that into the real world to like provide solutions for manufacturing or like the devices and the equipment that like you can create from it, like there's like a level of human comprehension that's still required. So I wonder if that becomes a bottleneck or how much you can really outsource. Like, okay, now the equipment that we make and the computers that we make are just so AI ingrained that you don't even need, you don't need an operator to even press the button at that interface anymore, or even understand what the input should be.
James just flipped out at that comment.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, Danny. I don't know. I think so much of it is just unfolding so fast. It's just like you barely even have time to think about it and like kind of the directions that it go. But yeah, we'll see, I guess.
Yeah, I like on the Reed thing. I think one take has always been that like graphic designers are really cooked after AI and stuff. I kind of, but like there, you need to have some form of taste. Like anytime you're interacting with the consumer, you need to have like AI can learn UX UI really well, obviously, or like it'll know it already really well, but I don't know if it'll know what people's tastes will be because that changes quite often. And like I think there is like objectively good taste and bad taste, and so I think I agree with you on the Reed point. On the second point, which is if humans will be a bottleneck, I imagine not. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me that they would be. It might just be that like humans eventually end up like super. When you like, I don't know, like I have some form of coding background, but not great. So like at a certain point, if I'm asking it to do something for me, like up until I don't know, let's say like prompt 10, I get it, and then after that, I'm just like kind of trusting that it's doing the right thing, and approaching it the right way, and then by prompt 30, I'm completely out of it. Like I don't know what the code base looks like at all. And I imagine that's what it's going to probably look like. I don't know if humans will be a bottleneck. I just like the bigger worry there is like, what if we just don't know what the fuck is going on in the back end? And that's like, I don't know if we'll be a bottleneck. It's just like more like nerve wracking situation.
I think that's kind of what I mean though. Like the simple coding example, I think is a bit different than like, you know, maybe we have 200 IQ scientists that can solve incredibly difficult, you know, quantum mechanics problems. But if like the next unlock in that field is like requires 300 IQ intelligence, then and only the AI can solve it, and only the AI understands like what that means in relation to, you know, how you can apply that to the real world. Is there like a limit where, you know, it can solve things and it's like you can't even pass on the understanding to the humans interacting with it?
Yeah, I
Maybe
think
it doesn't
we're
matter.
kind of far away from that range though, because I imagine it'll be able to explain it to humans that exist right now, or like the smart ones. The bigger worry that I have is not like the super smart people. It's like people like me who may not have like intrinsic motivation sometimes to like try and stay up to date with everything that's happening in life. I'm not a massive doomer in general. I think typically things will work out some one way or another and it'll be fine. But I do think that there's a non-zero chance that like people are becoming blobbier, I think a little bit, like with the internet and whatnot. And not a lot of people are like super. We have a massive like class of people now who are in kind of fakey jobs, and that like AI is going to get rid of them, or they're going to just be using AI to do the entire work. And then you've just created people who don't use any intellectual effort.
Would you say you're
That makes sense.
blobby?
Yeah, I would say I'm blobbyish.
Are you blobby? One thing I was gonna say that like I think is interesting is like, Danny, I would be curious your take from like your previous. You worked in like engineering manufacturing, right? Like the birth of what I imagine are going to be like large scale consultancy firms to actually. Can you hear me or no?
James, I can hear you, but every once in a while it sounds like Ian's going burp, 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 but I don't think he
All right,
is.
fuck this.
He was about to get to an interesting point as well. I can
Crashed
tell.
out. We can take a question from the audience. Riley, Ian, what's it like being in the permanent underclass? It's a good question. I recently learned how to bake pumpernickel bread. So that I think is, you know, good luck replacing that artisan skill. You know, I think I'm positioned quite well given.
How did you get the recipe?
Pumpernickel bread? No, I had to go and look in a cookbook.
Very good. No, but I don't know, Danny. I think what James was probably trying to get at is that consultants are going to die out, which I think makes sense.
I'm not sure entirely what he was saying. Consultants will be born to implement AI at corps. Current corps just say, here is AI, use it good. I would agree with both of those, maybe in different ways, but I would also maybe push back a little bit. Like from my sort of manufacturing experience, there was a little bit of like, here's some AI, just use it. But then also, of course, at a higher level, there was very much a, you know, how do we automate as many processes as are reasonable with hands-off, you know, automated robotics. Really, like manufacturing is bottlenecked by people today because you have to have those people who interface with things from time to time. So trying to find as many ways as possible to like, you know, have an automated piece of equipment that does something that an engineer would have done, like replace a filter or something like that, or have, you know, a camera that can move up and down a facility and like do spot checks of things to make sure nothing's on fire, something along those lines. Replacing that type of work is definitely inevitable. And I think you see that in a lot of ways. Like, I don't know, there's just so many examples. It's very obvious that like all of manufacturing is kind of like gradually moving that direction. And it's just really a cost of like implementing the technology. at a higher level, I could see it as well. I don't know that it would just be something as generic as like a consultant, like an AI consultant, and more so, I think you'll have these like really high expertise people once again, like we've been talking about high expertise people, like kind of really performing in this world. And I think the same would be true. Like, I think you would have people who like really understand particular processes or like particular like manufacturing loops and things of this nature, and they would, maybe have pretty good ideas about like what the most optimal layout of a facility would look like and how you would effectively integrate AI there and robotics in those processes. I guess you could call them an AI consultant, but I think it's like it's more than that, right? Like you're not just a guy prompting AI. You have a lot of like deep knowledge in that particular field and probably process, especially like if it's a chemical process as well.
Yeah.
So
you
I
become
just seen
more-
the same thing. It's like the people who are really elite and like at the top, they're gonna really just be accelerated and like amplified their value.
You'll just be kind of like an AI auditor at that point. You're like just checking that it's doing well. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Like that's, I guess, the general idea of what I think probably makes sense. The issue is that, like you said, it's the top 20%, maybe less.
So have you guys seen any good crypto AI use cases?
I was linked this this report from someone who works at DeepMind who talks about AI agents and crypto, but I honestly haven't read it yet. I don't think there's any. I think that whole thing was so funny. That was AI agents have to use crypto rails. Like Stripe isn't just going to set everything up for everybody. And then also, I don't understand why that's even good for like Bitcoin. Why would AI take on directional risk and not use USD dollar, United States, the American greenback?
Another question from the audience. Are you guys tracking the increase in military platforms in the Middle East currently? How will markets react to Iran conflict this weekend? He does like to do things over the weekend, Mr. President Trump.
This is a sort of unrelated take, but maybe kind of related. Is you could probably check Polymarket and see what the bettors are saying and maybe the insiders. I saw an interesting take from I don't know. There's a lot of conversation around like it's just letting insiders make money on kind of like sheep is kind of a bad thing, but also sort of saw some pushback to that. Yeah,
No,
and I've seen a lot of people have said this, but I've seen some pushback recently of maybe not pushback, but more just the idea of like maybe it's good to democratize like the insider trader value there away from, maybe previously it was, a government institution might tell a big bank and then the bank can trade that info and nobody else can. So now I guess the janitor at the Pentagon can hear something and make 30K on the market. I'm not going to really say whether that's better or worse, but I've seen that as kind of like, the rest of the market gets to know more quickly and like immediately because the low cost to basically incentivize someone to trade on the information and make it fairly obvious that they're doing so versus maybe how the world has kind of worked previously where some of that stuff maybe stays a bit more internally and maybe the positioning still happens but is done more quietly.
Mm-hmm. Infinite money glitch for the Defense Department budget. I solved military funding. Another $10 million to Lockheed Martin.
Lockheed Martin merch is so good.
Yeah, they got good merch.
I have a Cairo sweater. It's also good merch.
It's all right. It's can't hold it straight up to Lockheed Martin merch. So it's just the peak.
Yeah,
The daddy. Yeah, you're totally
maybe
right.
you guys should get into defense for better merch.
I think there's definitely some good contracts over there. Did you see that the one? There was a crypto service.
Yeah,
company.
Dragita.
Yeah, it was weird. It was like they were contracted for helping the government manage seized crypto, and then there was like a hack or something, or I don't really know the details of it, but it was like the person tied to the entity it was associated with potential alleged theft of.
I think it was the
funds.
son,
Yeah, the
son of
son-
the guy who owned
The
the
contract
third
company.
party business that
Okay.
provided services to the government. Basically, ended up trading with the funds that they seized
And he made
in
money or
some
something. No?
operation. Yeah, and he was just like directly trading on that.
Stream
address.
finance.
He made 40 mil and then started flexing it.
Yeah, that's a pretty crazy one. I mean, I think that's certainly at the level where, like, if you're trading with objectively funds which aren't even yours in the first place.
And also, it's not like you're stealing from a regular person, which is already not great. That's my moral compass. But you're stealing from the United States government.
Yeah, not a
So
great
the
move.
defense budget as well. I think he saw that thing about where the Pentagon every year gets audited and they can't figure out why they like have a gap of $50 billion. Like, yeah, they won't miss 40 mil.
Yeah, I think it might even be more than that. Yeah, it's a ridiculous amount. They haven't passed an audit in like 9 years or something. I mean, yeah, great stuff.
Yeah, in 7 years, and they missed $824 billion.
It's a rounding error. It's understandable.
Understandable. Yeah, I know we spent most of the pod talking about crypto, talking about AI, but I don't think there's anything else. I mean, Danny is. You guys are both very clued in on the Solana side, so I guess if you have anything interesting from there, we can talk about that. But apart from that, crypto is in one of those rare states where, well, I guess like post FTX, it was also like this, where like you didn't know where the next thing was coming from. But the issue now is like we knew what the next thing was supposed to be. We got it, like some form of government / corporate adoption, and we're still down quite a bit. So
Yeah, I think it kind of feels like we're at the weird crossroads where we're kind of waiting on this regulation. Like I think like market structure bill will be pretty impactful on kind of where things go from here. So it seems like there's a lot of conflict between like incumbents and like traditional financial incumbents and kind of crypto incumbents, which are like starting to chip away at their core businesses. Like there was this thing that just came through Zoomer News or whatever. It just said Jamie Dimon told Brian Armstrong he was full of shit at Davos following their clash on the Senate's crypto bill. So obviously tensions are running pretty high there. So I think that is kind of going to be the catalyst, I guess, to see like where the next stage of crypto goes. But yeah, overall, like in times like these when like prices are down as well, like all the like crypto businesses look horrible. Like Pump Fund did like pretty good revenue the last 5 days or so. Like they had a couple of days where they were essentially doing like all-time highs in revenue based denominated in Sol as well, but at least like since their token launched. But it you can't really see it reflected in the price at all. So I mean that's pretty crazy. Like they're doing like 20 almost like 20K days of Sol revenue going straight back into the token, and the token is like not moving that much.
which token is this?
Pump.
Okay. Yeah,
Pump token, ticker PUMP.
Oh,
read out the CA as well.
Yeah, I think maybe to the point, Ian, like I think this is a trend that we've been seeing since last year. Really, like I feel like actually Yano here at Blockworks called out like at a DAS last year saying like so much excitement in like the institutional like corpo side of things, and you see just I don't know retail are downtrodden because altcoins charts look like shit. And I feel like that seems like a trend that's kind of maybe doomed to continue. Insert Gort tweet maybe, but it's just this idea of like, I don't know, a lot of these things, just because there's so many, 9 billion tokens and most of them are garbage. And you may have a few like good natured teams with good intentions, maybe building something good, maybe with good growth prospects, right? The index across the board is still going to look like ass, even if there are, maybe a few assets that do quite well. And so I think it's unsurprising to like sort of see those kind of like disparate kind of sentiment views from those two sides. That does feel like the big question going forward, like as you mentioned with regulation, though, it's like, do we see more of an effect where these businesses who are are either already like very focused on crypto or tangentially or wanting to move more into the space, like if the regulation allows them to do so, does that open up an easier path for them to kind of come in and you can call it co-opting or just like, take up market share versus incumbents. And that would obviously be not the ideal outcome for maybe people who love DeFi or decentralized, pick your favorite protocol.
Yeah, James was talking about this you guys were talking about this before we went live as well. This idea of 8 banks might just create a blockchain, just do everything through there. Should be scary. Actually, I don't know. Like it just that's Well, that was James's take. It's like we meme, but that might just be the end state of it. I mean, the positive here is like the internet didn't end up being that, right? Like, I mean, the internet wasn't super financialized, but it's also like not owned by corporate entities. Well, because that was the original plan for the internet, was that it was going to be owned by corporate entities. Like,
you think it's not owned by corporate entities?
It is, but not the way that it was. Like, I guess, yeah, it is. It has eventually become owned by corporate entities. So maybe we'll have like a good 6-7 years of crypto, and then it'll just be super slop.
I think probably the bigger question that people have to ask themselves, maybe more seriously than they've had to in the past with, institutional adoption, is like, do you buy Ethereum coin, or like, should you be considering, I don't know, JP Morgan stock? Like that's probably not a question you would have ever prompted yourself with prior to that point. It was like, oh, there's so much growth ahead for crypto, and like clearly you would pick an on-chain thing, but now it presented sort of the other way of like, if they're going to come on chain and there's so much growth ahead, and that could be pretty meaningful to existing business, like bottom line or future growth prospects. Like it sort of changes the choices you might make, or at least opens up.
I would buy JPM.
He's doing the chart.
This is a good chart. JPM ETH chart.
Save that one.
I think the good thing here is that like everybody I know who was super crypto native before, and it still is, like I would consider them exceptionally crypto native, like people who were very involved within the horrible, like very new chains doing random goofy stuff. They're all into fucking stocks now. And I think that's a good thing. Like, at least they're not going to be left behind. But I imagine there will be like a large class of people, if crypto doesn't pan out the way that people want it to pan out, they might be left behind. But like, I have a friend, and one of his big theses is that like crypto's completely dead, and that means that he's never going to get a job again, because for all of his adult life he's worked in crypto. I don't know if that's true, because I think if, let's say, like banks get super involved within crypto, they're gonna need people who were super involved with crypto. So
I think the more realistic outcome for that is like it just gets absolved, or kind of like absorbed into like traditional finance. I think you're kind of already seeing that. Like when Robinhood started doing it, Revolut started doing it. It's the same with like how fintechs kind of position themselves as like, we're not like banks, and like they're very much banks now. And now they're kind of the exact same things like happening with crypto. Like that's why there are like so many people excited around the term neobank, which is like not a new term, maybe a new term for like most people in America, but
neofinance,
or neofinance, neofinance I think that's kind of like just the next stage of everything. So I think ultimately that's a good thing though. Like I think there's some benefits obviously for that. Like the velocity of money on crypto rails is obviously much higher. There's a lower cost of capital for doing certain things, because like there's a certain amount of stable coins that will probably just never off ramp due to like various reasons. And also like people perhaps just like enjoy having their assets on chain. They don't really want to have to deal with them being stuck at like a brokerage or anything like that. So I think there's definitely benefits there. And I think you're also seeing that reflected in like some of these like HIP-3 markets that are doing just insane amounts of open interest and volume. And like this is like clearly like you could go and trade this stuff on other venues, but like people are choosing to trade it on chain. So I think that is very much like a bull flag for like crypto
Yeah.
rails as, becoming like competitive, like traditional financial rails.
Yeah. Another thing is that I guess you can always pivot to like the next frontier, like the next financial frontier. I don't know
Yeah.
if you can pivot to AI because that has like a super high barrier to entry, but there'll be
Yeah.
something else.
That's been one that's always been confusing. Like to your earlier point, people saying it's like, oh, yeah, like crypto, like AI agents need to use crypto rails. Like everyone who's ever said that has a massive like self-interest in that statement being correct. Like if you go and like listen to like Jeremy Allaire talk about like the future of stable coins and stuff, it's really interesting how he speaks around things, and also how he kind of speaks about like USDC. He won't like say it's like just like straight T-bills. He'll say it's like, he'll describe it as like very regulated, safe products. It's really funny listening to like how people describe some of these businesses. But yeah.
Yeah, it'll be. I saw the Jamie Dimon, Brian Armstrong thing now. I don't know, that like bill has taken longer than expected, but I guess everything about the government takes longer than expected, so it's not really something to be surprised about.
Yeah, there's a weird split there too. Like, maybe for the first time, I feel like for a while, a lot of the kind of like crypto fintechs were they've kind of been on the same side. Like you've seen Armstrong and Tenev and these other very like crypto aligned kind of fintech founders be on the same side of these bills. But for the first time to see Coinbase and like Robinhood on maybe the opposite side for maybe slightly different reasons of like, Coinbase kind of taking this isn't the exact bill that we want to see. So we would like that to be changed. Whereas I think Vlad and maybe the Robinhood team or viewpoint is more of, we'll take what we can get right now, because maybe we won't get the perfect bill, but we'll get something, and then maybe that can be improved upon later. You could maybe see both arguments. I guess the big question there is like midterms next year. If you have real concerns about losing, Trump sort of like losing this mandate in the US, then you might be concerned about never getting another crypto bill through for the rest of this term if this one doesn't go.
Yeah, time is of the essence for sure. And it's definitely a weird split.
Okay, well, I think that's a good place to end it, unless anybody else has anything else to say.
Can you pull up the latest comment from IdlePie?
No.
To James Kristoff out there, I would be careful what you say about the current Chinese regime. Clearly, they have your coordinates, and they're aware of the devices on your premises. So you may want to clean those and get some new devices actually for your next podcast appearance.
Yep, maybe less Xiaomi and more. Is there anything made in America?
The Solana Seeker. I actually don't even know if that's made in America.
I would be shocked if any major phone is actually fully manufactured in the US. It's probably not.
Handcrafted in Alabama.
They're almost certainly all being built in China.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
but maybe not anymore. I don't know. Reshoring.
Let's see. We're onshoring manufacturing to yeah. Okay. Thanks for coming on, guys.
Get your Claude bots on MoltBook. Get in there.
Yeah.
Contribute to the MoltBook account.